start out by mentioning three things that we often don't hear about the state of Illinois. We hear a lot of bad news, you know, that we have one of the highest unemployment rates in the country and one of the most anemic economic growth rates. There are some bright spots. I want to mention a couple of things. I don't know if these are bright spots. These are some things that should be happening, and I'm pleased that they are happening. One is that the state workforce really has been reduced over the last 10 years. In 2008, there were 68,000 state employees. Currently, there are 61,000. So in the 6 years, 2008 to 2014, the state workforce has been reduced by 7,000 men and women, a head count of 7,000. So we hear a lot about bureaucratic bloat and administrative bloat, but the facts are that the state workforce has been reduced over the last decade. We also hear about waste, fraud, and abuse, and no doubt there's far too much of it. Any amount of waste, fraud, and abuse is too much, right? And I've been pleased to learn that the state does have some programs to ensure that your tax dollars are not being wasted. I want to mention one. This past spring, all state retirees had to verify that their spouses who were on the state insurance were actually their spouses. So they had to submit federal income tax returns to prove that the spouse was actually the spouse and wasn't a freeloader taking them from getting state health insurance when they don't deserve it. So I was cheered by that. Also, I have noted that the state is making some efficiencies. You know, the state employs thousands and thousands of home health care workers who tend to seniors and the disabled. And traditionally, I guess they just used a paper and pencil to keep their time, which you can imagine could invite dishonesty. Well, the state is now going to an electronic visit verification system where the home health care worker has to call in, actually makes a phone call, and his or her clocking in when visiting a person is recorded that way. So again, this is another way that the state's trying to crack down on waste, fraud, and abuse and deliver high-quality state services more efficiently. And I mention those to you because, again, we hear a lot of bad news about the state, not much good news. Now, the Chamber asked us to talk about what to expect from Springfield this spring. I'm going to talk about what you can expect from me in Springfield this spring. Continued attention, of course, to repurposing the Collins Street Prison and Illinois Youth Center on McDonough Street. And Jeff mentioned that I was educated at Joel Catholic School, so I want to be fair and charitable about this, but I'm having a hard time remaining fair and charitable about what our state does when it closes a state facility. I want to be proven wrong. Father Belmonte, I want to be proven wrong. But it seems to me when the state closes a prison or a center for the developmentally disabled, it just locks it up and walks away. There's no plan for maintaining the property, much less any plan for marketing the property. So I have staff looking into what other states are doing. I can't even yet find, I hope this exists, but I haven't yet found it, an inventory of all state properties. That would seem to be fundamental, wouldn't it? That there should be a list, an inventory, a database of all state properties, sorted by county, sorted by legislative district. We're looking for that. So again, Representative Walsh and I spent a lot of time co-chairing the Collins Street Task Force, trying to find a new use for the Collins Street Prison, and of course, this is a polite crowd, but banging on the Department of Corrections to try and get an answer out of them about what they're going to do with Illinois Youth Center Joliet. There's a court case called Rasho, which might require the Department of Corrections to move offenders with severe mental health problems out of the general prison population and put them in a separate facility. And the Department of Corrections is considering that for Illinois Youth Center Joliet out on McDonough Street. I'm also going to keep working with my colleagues to see that the Atlantic Expressway gets built and that the South Suburban Airport gets built. And I believe IDOT is sincere, and Governor Quinn is certainly sincere about this, about getting the Atlantic Expressway built and about getting the South Suburban Airport. As I mentioned in a speech to the Joliet Park District the other morning, on Sunday I was at an event and I ran into a person I can only describe as a hater. A guy that, you know, regards me as being guilty for every sin the Illinois government has created since we became a state. And he said to me, "Are you a Quinn guy?" And I said, yeah, I'm a Quinn guy, because Pat Quinn recognizes the value of Will County, and Pat Quinn, frankly, likes investing and spending money in Will County. So again, I'm not here to campaign, proselytize on behalf of Governor Pat Quinn. But, I mean, consider the Arsenal Road interchange on Interstate 55 down by ExxonMobil. That was pushed by the governor's office. Consider the LA Expressway. Consider the millions of dollars that the state is providing for the multimodal facility down in Joliet, aka the new train station. I mean, I've heard this repeatedly from Governor Pat Quinn. He understands that Will County is one of the economic engines of the state of Illinois, and for our state to get back on its feet, we need to keep our infrastructure and our workforce here the best it can be. So, Ileana, construction could begin next year, and the South Suburban Airport a couple years after. So we're keeping our eye on that. And we're also keeping an eye on local resources such as the Rialto and Joliet Junior College, of course, and that brings us to a capital bill. We need money for roads, we need money for bridges, we need money for school construction. The question is, where are we going to get it? You know, the capital bills are usually funded by increases in fees, the price of license plates, tax on cigarettes, tax on liquor, things like that. Well, those fees have been raised repeatedly in recent years, so as much as we need a capital bill so that Joliet Junior College can get the money promised to it by the state for its city center campus, for instance, as much as we need a capital bill, I'm afraid that the thought might be to fund it with gaming expansion, which would obviously hurt Joliet, and I see the frowns in the audience. So I've been down there 2 years, as was noted. We've stopped the governor has vetoed a gaming bill which has passed, which would allow 5 new casinos and allow slots of racetracks. Obviously very harmful to the city of Joliet, because one of those new casinos would go on Route 80 between Joliet and the state line. So this is about jobs for me, and revenue for the city of Joliet, obviously. So we're really going to have to be on guard about that. But while we need a capital bill, we need a revenue source to build roads and bridges and schools, we got to be careful that revenue source not be the expansion of gaming, because that would obviously hurt Joliet. And in my work on these projects, my respect, my admiration, my appreciation for our local elected officials has greatly increased. I feel a little funny saying this to you, but I mean, I've known a lot of local mayors and council members and township supervisors, you know, for years, because we're in the same realm. But I've never, you know, sat down with them and worked on projects like getting highways built. They are really sharp. They are really good. You know, it's like if you were in class in high school with a guy you knew from the neighborhood, you knew all your life, and there was some, you know, complicated math problem that had everybody in the room looking like they were, you know, had been bopped on the head, and all of a sudden your neighbor figures it out. You say, wow, this guy's got skills I never realized he had, right? That happens to me all the time in meetings with our local elected officials. I mean, we are really lucky to have some exceptionally talented, very knowledgeable, and very hardworking people. Well, that's given me the thought that maybe the proper role of a state legislator is to just set the framework and then get out of the way, right? So that talented local people, whether elected or in private industry, can use their talents. Well, one framework that's really caught my interest is Illinois' tax policy. And there are some curious things, some odd things about Illinois' tax policy. I mean, obviously we have a flat income tax. That's in the Illinois Constitution, the 1970 Illinois Constitution, right? Was 3%, now it's 5%. Well, most states don't have a flat income tax. Most states have a progressive graduated income tax like the feds. Unless you think this is a radical idea, you know, that exists only in patently liberal states like Massachusetts and California, look at Iowa. Iowa has a graduated progressive income tax. Most Midwestern states don't. Most Midwestern states do. Illinois does not. So I'm sponsor of a Senate resolution that would put on the ballot this November a constitutional amendment to change Illinois' flat income tax to a progressive income tax. Now the bar is really high to get this on the ballot. It's going to take a 3/5 vote in both chambers. We're not there yet, but there are more and more sponsors of this every day. So let's let the people decide. Let's have a vigorous debate. After all, it is a gubernatorial campaign year. Should Illinois persist with its flat income tax, or should we go to a progressive graduated tax? Also, we have one of the narrowest sales tax bases in the country. We don't tax services, right? I mean, think of all the things our parents do that we don't do anymore, right? Iron our own shirts, walk our own dogs, cut our own grass. Those services, they're untaxed. Other Midwestern states tax those services. So I think we need to look at this, look at what the effect has been in surrounding states of taxing, of broadening the sales tax base. Maybe the overall sales tax rate could be reduced if the base were broadened. Also, here's some heresy, but it was suggested to me by retired teachers: consider taxing retirement income. We leave $1 billion on the table every year by not taxing retirement income in Illinois. So this session, you know, there's going to be incredible pressure, incredible budgetary pressure this year because, of course, the income tax hike, which was adopted a few years ago, is scheduled to phase down January 1st. So we're looking at a $5.4 billion hole in the budget. And there won't be an April surprise. Last year, we were looking at severe cuts in education. We didn't have to make those cuts because previously, President Obama, of course, was talking about changing some of the Bush-era tax rules, including capital gains. That motivated enough affluent Illinoisans to sell their stock that we realized a $1.2 billion in income revenue that we didn't see coming. That's the April surprise. There's not going to be an April 2014 surprise, right? So we need to have this discussion about our tax structure. I hope we can achieve a tax structure, sales tax, income tax, that's fair, that provides sufficient revenue for the efficient delivery of high-quality state services, and that fits the 21st century economy that we have now. Thank you.